There's no deindustrialization in the United States. That is a myth. We produce more stuff today than we ever have. We do it with a lot less people, not because of China, but because of automation. And that is a trend that's not going away. So we can fetishize industrial jobs all we want. They're not coming back. They're never coming back. The robots are going to take over.
There's a generalized disrespect for skill, for the craft skill of either teaching, thinking, or even being a high-level craftsman. And this has happened because of the forces of deindustrialization. This is what I think anyway, that we used to be a country that prided ourselves on making things. We are now a country that prides ourselves on manipulating ourselves and manipulating other people and manipulating financial markets. So I was going to say that there is a crisis in employment. There's an economic and political crisis around universities, and they're less and less shielded from them. I'll give you an example of something that's happening in California where, strangely enough, we agree about a lot of things, but there is an enormous need for electrical workers, because as you know, our electrical grid is in trouble, and there's a lot of wilderness in California. And I was talking to a member of the Electrical Workers Union, and he says there are jobs postings that are unfilled. They pay $150,000 once you finish your apprenticeship, and young people are not choosing these jobs. You can go in with a high school degree. What has happened in general, and this is, I think, about the marketization of everything, is there's a generalized disrespect for skill, for the craft skill of either teaching, thinking, or even being a high-level craftsman. And this has happened because of the forces of deindustrialization. This is what I think anyway, that we used to be a country that prided ourselves on making things. We are now a country that prides ourselves on manipulating ourselves and manipulating other people and manipulating financial markets. We've moved all the industrial and manufacturing jobs to China. And for an ambitious 18-year-old with parents, they're not going to be like, I'm going to go become an electrical worker, even though there's a need for it, it's well paid. And I think it's partially because we've devalued, because we've seen ourselves as customers, we've devalued the long periods of apprenticeship and the respect for skills. So in graduate seminars now, people don't even have the skills to argue with each other. There have been cases where my students who are leftists get yelled at by their colleagues, just screamed at by their peers. So I think that this kind of bullying, it encourages a kind of intellectual conformity, and I think the three of us would agree about that actually is directly working against the kinds of curious, skeptical minds that we would like to cultivate. And I feel like a craftsperson who really knows how to work with his or her hands, who sees their processes of work, valued in culture, will respect learning more. But if you live in a cubicle and you're just like manipulating yourself and your ideas and trying to sell all the time, and you're oppressed by your boss, you're going to look for shortcuts to success. And shortcuts to success are partially why we are in this crisis today, because the pressures of competition produced by the market produce an incredibly anxious, superficial, highly individualized person who's not capable of being disturbed by ideas without having like a total freak-out meltdown.
You want to jump into this one?
Yes.
Okay, jump in.
Well, I'm just gonna broader economics, so I have to. There's no deindustrialization in the United States. That is a myth. We produce more stuff today than we ever have in terms of actual value produced. We do it with a lot less people, not because of China, but because of automation. And that is a trend that's not going away. So we can fetishize industrial jobs all we want. They're not coming back. They're never coming back. The robots are going to take over those jobs. And we better figure out a model of how to create value and how to create meaning in those cubicles, because there are going to be more of them, not fewer of them. Industrialization is, again, a fantasy of the past. It wasn't that great to begin with. And again, this is part of the problem But I agree completely that we disrespect skills, intellectual skills and physical skills. We completely disrespect that. We don't have that in our educational system. But I don't think we get the snowflakes that we have today because of that. I think the snowflakes are a consequence of something more fundamental. I think we have elevated in our educational system, starting really with kindergarten, we've elevated emotion above reason. That is, we teach kids to emote. We teach kids that the emotions are primary, that thoughts are not objective, that the truth is not objective, that reality is not objective, and indeed reason is not a means of knowing reality, but emotions are. We put them in circles and have them debate issues that they're not qualified to debate. They know nothing about as 5-year-olds or 10-year-olds or 12-year-olds, but they learn to express emotions above all. And by the time they get to university, they're little emotional bubbles, all they have is emotions, and they've never been taught to use the thing that makes us human, which is our reasoning capacity. They've never been taught that there is such a thing as a truth. All there is opinion. So yes, they get into circumstances and they don't know how to argue with somebody else because they don't have the tools. Those are tools of reason. All they have is emotion. The yelling is an expression, and it's a manifestation of everything they've been taught up until that point. So again, our educational crisis, is much deeper than academia. It sources academia because we teach the teachers, but it sources academia, but it's a crisis of elevating emotion above reason and rejecting the idea of universal reason.
So, okay, it's good.
I don't see any kindergarten debates, but I'll agree with you.
I'm going to come back to you, Catherine, but I have a quote that I wasn't sure if I was going to use, and I'm going to use it because of some of the things you just said. It comes from Buckminster Fuller, probably is much more of a leftist, from 1970, because he recognized, you mentioned in there, at least in the States and probably in most of the West, jobs are being created, but fewer people are needed for them. And this has been noticed for a long time. Did I quote that wrong?
Manufacturing jobs.
Manufacturing jobs.
There are plenty of jobs. Okay. There's no shortage of jobs in the world today.
Well, because my next question...
Unemployment is very low.
My next question, which is the last theme about is there an overhaul, but I want to focus on sort of the technological changes and if universities are even up to the task and kind of the stuff we mentioned with ChatGPT and whatever. But Buckminster Fuller, and I want to give this one to you, Catherine, he said this in 1970, and you'll probably hate it, but he said, "We should do away with the absolutely specious notion that everybody has to earn a living. It is a fact today that 1 in 10,000 of us can make a technological breakthrough capable of supporting all the rest. The youth of today are absolutely right in recognizing this nonsense of earning a living. We keep inventing jobs because of this false idea that everybody has to be employed at some kind of drudgery because according to Malthusian Darwinian theory, he must justify his right to exist. So we have inspectors of inspectors, people making instruments for inspectors to inspect inspectors." And then this is the part, and he said this in 1970, right? "The true business of people should be to go back to school and think about whatever it was they were thinking about before somebody came along and told them to earn a living." I want to bring this one to you because in your answer, you're talking about, you're saying there's jobs out there for them. I'm not sure how many of them feel that way, whether you think the statistics are showing them something different or not. And it goes back to my earlier question of what the role of the university really is in a world where, let's say, Fuller maybe had a point.
Okay, so he's very much of the new left and thinks that can be a utopia of just pure leisure time. I think leisure in itself was created as a category because there was work. And the division between work and leisure is something that's completely destroyed because of this thing, because we're working and we're playing games on the same platform, on the same gadget. So that kind of utopianism, I can't completely endorse, but it certainly is true that we have the productive capacity to liberate the majority of workers from drudgery to find meaningful work. And I think meaningful work is what is important here. And our jobs, the cubicle jobs especially, and the managerial and professional jobs that I'm talking about are much more surveilled and managed by a system that wants to extract profit from any enterprise. So private equity enters an industry, de-skills the workers and heightens the managerial class to create flows and debts that they then extract from the industry and they leave, like from sporting clubs like Manchester United to student loan debt to private hospitals. We see a degeneration of American industry, if you like, or job production because of this management for finance capital. So I don't believe that Buckminster Fuller could not have predicted this development. We have such great production capacity. Why isn't there more meaningful work? If we can give the drudgery to AI, great, but we're not. We're inventing new forms of drudgery to dominate people. So there's intellectual conformity within the universities, but there's a degradation of work and its meaning for the general population, from the blue collar to the white collar workers. So my concern is, how do we bring back the dignity of work? Yaron and I can debate about whether or not there is the industrialization. We can do that. We can pull, statistics out of a hat. But I think what I want to say is, if we don't have industrial jobs anymore, and they were incredibly punishing, how can we find more meaningful work for people who don't go to college, for instance?
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below.
With a free trial, you can enjoy the full talk and thousands more.
Thank you for being part of the conversation.